Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the Tier 1 concealed Centurion Level 2 retention holster. For anyone who isn't familiar with Tier 1 concealed, they've been definitely a name in the market when it comes to their appendix carry type holsters. I had never actually tried those out because appendix carry is just not very comfortable for me, but you hear and read about them quite a bit on the forums about how great they are. So taking their word for it, I went ahead and sprung and picked up this level 2 holster, mainly because I could not find a Safariland holster, at least a level 2 retention holster, for my Gen 5 G17 that has the Parker Mountain Machine comp on it. So basically what I was thinking I was going to need was a G34 holster, since it is about the same length. At least I wasn't able to find it without having to custom order it from Safariland, which when doing that, it brings the price pretty close to $300. And while I do realize that quality gear um, does not come cheap in many instances, especially when it comes to gun gear, wasn't quite something I was willing to fork out. So I would like to say for over the past year and a half or so, I have been searching for a level 2 type holster for my particular Gen 5 G17. I just want to say here, you can see that the gun is unloaded, no magazine. No round in the chamber. So this was the gun I was looking for. You can see with the comp here, it does extend that length quite out a bit out to around G34. I think that was another bit of my hesitancy, was I wasn't 100% sure that the G34 holster would work with the comp on here if it was the exact dimensions. So a little bit gun shy, pardon the pun, on dropping that much money for Safariland. So I have seen, it seems like today custom holster makers out there are a dime a dozen. But unless I hear a lot of really good things, I do hesitate to spend my money towards that. So going back again to Tier 1, they definitely have the reputation for making some really great holsters. So the Tier 1 Centurion, like I mentioned, it is level 2, and the way that works is by when you put the gun in, you have this hood that comes back and keeps your gun from being able to be pulled out or even falling out if you're running around or doing ninja somersaults or whatever it may be. So the only way you can get it to break loose is by hitting that. The thumb lever here, which as you see, opens up the hood and allows you to pull your gun out. Definitely a big benefit. I want to say it's almost, in my opinion, necessary to have some type of active retention when you are running an outside the waistband holster, especially on something like a battle belt setup. Holster mounting options. I did want something that could be mounted with the Safariland QLS system. Let's see here. Between having the QLS fork and the QLS receiver, allows you to quickly snap it in. And if you have a different gun or a different holster for a different gun, you can quickly just push these out, slide it out. Here's my Safariland 6390, same mounting system. You can drop it in and you're good to go. So that's exactly what I was looking for. That's what the Centurion offers. So it does fit Safariland attachments, and it also does fit G-code hangers. So if you have either of those two options, this holster will work with that. So by itself, the base price on the Centurion is $85.99. Now, as you go through, and I will say that when you go on their website and you scroll through which guns they make this holster for, there's a ton of them. Pretty much all of the popular models out there, they make the Centurion for. As you go through and start picking some of your options, so first and foremost, you're going to start with your dominant hand. Me being left-handed, it also makes it a lot more harder for me to find holsters. I could find tons of right-handed Safarilands out there, but I could never find the left-hand ones, at least, again, not outside of getting or ordering directly from Safariland itself. So left-hand, right-hand options, you choose your make and model. And then if you have a weapon light, obviously you can tell by this holster, it is made for a weapon light. In this case, it is the Surefire X300. choosing different options with the lights, you know, they have the X300s, they have the Streamlight TLR1s, they have the TLR7s, the TLR8s. There's some of the Inforce options on there, and even I think even some OLED options, believe it or not. But every single one of those adds about $20 add-on price to the overall price. And then you can choose from kydex thickness. So the default is 093 thick kydex, and if you choose to upgrade it to 1/8 or 125 thickness, that adds another $5 to it. I believe it's $5. Let me just double check. Yeah, another $5 to it, which I opted to go through with on this. I don't think that's really necessary. I probably could have double checked it because I believe that Safariland, they use thinner, something thinner, like more along the lines of the 093. So if you go to order this holster, it's probably not really needed to get the 125, but it is just an extra $5. And it does, I mean, this thing is super duper rigid. Coming down and picking the color of your kydex that you want. Now they offer black, OD green, and FDE, and those are your options you can choose from. Again, your basic options. You can go ahead and choose to pick upgraded kydex, which in this case is the multicam. I did want the multicam. That was another $25 add-on to it, and then all of their holsters are already cut for an optic. As you see here, even a larger optic like my Centurion SRO, plenty of clearance, no issues at all. And then you can pick a support piece. So this piece here, as you can see, it's on the back side of the holster in Coyote Brown. They offer it as adding some extra rigidity. So when it is hanging on the QLS fork, it just makes it super stiff. I don't know how it would feel without the support piece there, but I just figured since I was going ahead and putting the money out for it already, let's go ahead and just throw that one in there. The support piece does add another $10 to the add-on price. And then they're going to ask you about your mounting solution. So again, going back to the Safariland QLS system or the G code. So you can get it without, which of course doesn't add any money to it whatsoever. You can get it with just the QLS fork, which adds 15. And if you want the receiver and the plate, it's 30 total. Well, I already had both of these. You know, they don't match. I don't really care, but I didn't choose those. The G code options, I think they're around the same price. I take that back, $17. And again, you can choose left hand or right hand. And then lastly, you know, do you want to include blue thread locker? That's an extra couple bucks. I've got plenty of the blue thread locker. So as mentioned, the basic price, which includes just a 093 kydex holster with the spring-loaded level 2 hood, is $85.99. And then by the time I added in all the extras like the thicker kydex, like the upgraded multicam print, the support piece on the back, I want to say the total after shipping and tax and everything came out to like around $157. So it's not cheap, not quite Safariland money if you're ordering from the factory. Another thing I want to note is, you know, when you are choosing the weapon platform that you want them to make the holster for you, they choose between, you know, there's specific Gen 5 models and then there's Gens 1 through 4. You know, my Gen 5 G17 with the comp, very snug fit. I think the comp makes it a little bit snugger, but as you can see, it is kind of you see some of the plastic residue in my gun here as I've been drawing it and inserting it and drawing it. It is rubbing on the inside here and shaving it down a little bit. I did actually, right before I started this video, I wanted to double check my Gray Ghost Precision slide with Lone Wolf Distributors TWF frame. Has this X300 on there. Just wanted to check out if it fit, and you know, this is supposed to be a Gen 4 type gun, but you know, pleasantly surprised, it does fit also. I would almost say that it's smoother, the feeling, than for my Gen 5. You can see there is a little bit of plastic rubbing off on the slide there as I take it in and out, but pleasant surprise that it does fit both. So if you have two different Gen G17s, know that this holster will work for you. One other thing I do want to note is, when it comes to choosing flashlight models, one thing that I was actually kind of surprised about is they do not make this holster to accommodate the Mod Light PL350. Originally, I did have my PL350 on this G17, and I had this X300 Turbo on my Gen 5 G19. It will not work. I reached out to them. Of course, they don't make it, and they said that it will not work when it comes to the Mod Light, which is dissimilar from the Safariland model. And now that I've discussed the main points when it comes to the Tier 1 Concealed Centurion, I do want to compare it a little bit to the Safariland for any of you that may be interested out there. So again, this is a Safariland 6390 RDS sight. This is their level 2 holster, and how this differs from the Centurion is it does not just purely rely on the strap in order to have positive retention. With the Safariland, the locking mechanism is down in here, and while you do have a thumb switch similar to the Centurion, as you can see there, I believe, if I understood it right, the Safarilands grab your gun around the trigger guard, and that's what locks it into place. Here is my Gen 5 G19 with the PL350. Again, no magazine, nothing in the chamber. Push the gun in. Let me knock it up. Locks into place. Very, very, very positive retention. You press the thumb release, you can pull your gun right out. And like I mentioned, while this holster is specifically made for the Surefire X300, it does also work with the longer and bigger Mod Light PL350. One thing that you did have to do is typically from the factory, there's a plug down here. I know a lot of people take that plug out anyway, just in case empty shell casings fall in there and you can't get your gun in. A lot of people take that out by default anyway, but if you use a Mod Light PL350 with this holster, you are definitely going to have to take it out. And I may be incorrect here, but I do believe that even Streamlight TLR1s will work in this holster as well. Something I should check out because they do have a TLR1 on my G34. So also with the Safariland holster, besides having a different type of retention, besides being able to accommodate different lights where the Centurion cannot, it does also have this hinged red dot protection cover, a little protective hood that once you get it reholstered, you just flick it down. It does offer you some degree for your red dot from getting dirty, from maybe something falling on it and breaking the glass. Probably more so for a dust cover, but when you release the gun, it just pulls right out of the way. That's not spring loaded in any way whatsoever. This thing that you see right here, this is a guard that if somebody can't just quickly try to grab your gun and pull it, hit the button and pull it out, so it just does give you an extra level of protection. It's the way that it's designed. If it was on your hip, it's pretty natural. It's like it doesn't feel like you're going to hit it. Your hand just kind of goes in place, but you can imagine somebody, say an adversary, was trying to grab your gun. It does, it just offers a little bit of protection from them being able to pull that out. Also with this, as I mentioned, the Kydex seems to be thinner than 125. Maybe it's the 093, maybe it's a little bit thinner. Also, all their holsters are all black in any colors that you see. Actually, I take that back. Not all of them are all black. Some of them have this Cordura covering, but especially if you wanted multicam like I had here, because I had this one, it is a black holster. It is wrapped with Cordura. And while the Safariland holster does offer you the versatility of having different weapon lights and still being able to use the same holster, I will say one thing that this holster at least will not let me do is I do have an OEM threaded barrel for this. And in the Safariland, they have this block here, which you can't really see without the light shining down in there. But there is if you want to call it a pin that sticks up, or a dowel that the barrel slides into. If I have the threaded barrel loaded on this, I cannot get the gun into the holster. It will not lock in. Not 100% sure if you can take this out. I mean, I'm sure you could, but I don't know if that compromises the stability of the holster. You can see, obviously, this block is held in place by a cross bolt here, so I don't know if that's even an option. Maybe it's something I'll play with a little bit later. And also, while you do have the versatility with the Safariland of different lights where you don't with the Centurion, that is, you know, again, I have this Gen 5 G17 with the comp on it, and I have the Gen 4-ish build with the threaded barrel, and both of them work just fine. Because of the design, there is no block, there is nothing that's keeping the barrel from sliding down into the holster securely. So that is a benefit or a pro going towards the Tier 1. Another thing in comparing these two holsters, which I think is a pro when it comes to the Tier 1 concealed versus the Safariland. If you did not know it, all of the Safariland holsters, at least I believe it's all of them, where the mounting holes are, once you slide this into your QLS receiver, it will have a forward cant to it, which is fine if you're wearing this gun off of your belt or maybe even slightly behind your hip. But for me, you know, running it on a mid-ride UBL where this places it a little further down my thigh, having a straight up and down holster is what is preferable. It feels really funky having that forward cant. And in order to negate that, Centurion training, they do offer their NCP plates, and there's several different variations out there. But basically what it does is, you can see a little bit of it here. The NCP plate picks up the mounting holes in the holster itself, and then gives you new mounting holes to pick up the QLS fork. So you can mount this not only straight, it gives you adjustment to keep the forward cant, keep it straight, or even do a rearward cant, a pretty steep rearward cant. You know, that in itself, I believe, if I remember correctly, and I've had it for a while, that was like another $40 of cost to add it into the holster. Though I did notice that Safariland does now make, I believe it's the UBL, and the UBL is this mounting place here, which the QLS attaches to, is now adjustable. So these holes are slotted. I was thinking about trying that out when I was getting this holster set up. I did have a spare UBL laying around, and again, I was going to buy it, but then it made me think about it. I contacted Centurion and asked them about the draw stroke, and they said that it is straight up and down. So didn't need any type of adjusted UBL, didn't need the Centurion training NCP plate. So in my opinion, at least for my uses, that is a pro in favor of the Tier 1 concealed. All right, I want to take a minute and go a little bit more into the retention mechanisms and the differences between these two holsters. So while technically, you know, this is a level 2 holster, this is like a level 1 holster, but it has active retention on it. There is a locking mechanism, and like I said, the ALS system, or the automatic locking system, how it operates and how intuitive it feels. When you take a gun and you insert it, just again pushing a slight button and drawing it out is very natural. When it's on your hip, push it, pull it out. Very good retention. I don't think I've ever had this thing pop out, but when you want to draw it, it's not a problem at all. It comes right out. Very intuitive. While Safariland does make holsters with their while that's the ALS system, they have hooded holsters, which is known as their self-locking system, or their SLS. And while it may look similar to this design that we have on the Tier 1, it's different by the way that the hood does not spring open with the touch of a button. With the SLS system, there is a locking mechanism that once you pull the hood back, it locks into place. It's very similar to this. Except with the Safariland SLS, you have to push a button and also rotate the hood out of the way. So if you want to compare the Tier 1 spring-loaded system to the Safariland SLS, I do feel this is a little bit quicker. But like I mentioned in the video I made about the Cobra Kydex holster, it does have the same type of spring-loaded hood on it. You can tend to, on your draw, outrun the hood. And what I mean by that, and I'll go over again here, is that when you go to draw, as you'll notice, there is, I mean, it's almost like a Glock trigger where there's a bit of take up before the hood releases. And you can see it, I'll do it real slow. you have to get through the majority of the motion or the travel before the hood actually releases. Now, a good portion of the time when you go to pull it out, not a problem. But there has been times when I've gone to use that Cobra Kydex, and I highlight it in that video, where you outrun the hood. Whereas you go to pull the gun out and draw it, don't push hard enough or soon enough on the lever here, and you end up getting the hood hung up onto your slide there. And the only way you can get it to release is if you push it back down. So if you can imagine, if you're trying to move with speed, or you're on a shot timer, or you're in a competition, or worse yet, you're drawing in a moment of need, that little bit there could be detrimental to you. There you see some more of the holster, inside of the holster shaving off a little bit. So I really prefer the ALS system over this mechanism here. I'm sure if just a bit of practice, you get used to that, or if you're mindful of the fact to quick push down hard before you start drawing on it, you won't have a problem. But in my mind, the advantage between these two locking systems definitely goes with the Safariland. I don't think I could get this thing to hang up if I tried. I did a little bit really purposeful. This releases almost immediately. I'm pulling back on some pressure, and it just broke loose. Again, I haven't heard much about the ALS system ever failing. Again, this is not a true level 2 holster. It would be considered like a level 1. But I do feel pretty confident in the locking mechanism of the Safariland, and I do feel that it is a lot more intuitive and has less room for error than what you have here with this type hood on the Tier 1 Centurion. And one last side-by-side comparison with these two holsters is you'll notice the Safariland, it's completely wrapped around design, whereas the Tier 1, it's more of like the clamshell that has the typical rubber bushings in here that you can tighten or loosen in order to adjust for retention on your gun, or how tight or loose you're pulling your gun in and out as may be. With this type of holster with a level 2, it's not really necessary to be able to do that. I guess it's just one of those nice to haves. Is there any type of risk of having this open? Maybe some dirt and debris getting in there, but just again, a little bit of comparison between them. So lastly, cost. Like I mentioned, this one here, I pretty much got all the accessories on it, ran me about $155 with shipping and everything like that. Where the typical Safariland, again, I know ordering them from the factory or straight from Safariland is always going to be more expensive. I think when, a lot of places, even Amazon, in fact, Amazon is where I got this holster here. But ordering from Safariland, it's going to be upwards from anywhere from $250 to $300, depending on the model and what features you get, wraps, special Kydex colors, whatever it may be. But if you go on Amazon, they do sell them on there also. Again, this is where I was able to find this left-hand one for my G19. This was an open box buy, and I want to say it was only like $115, $120. And it is Amazon, so if I didn't like the condition of it, I could just return it and get my money back. Pleasantly surprised. It was basically like brand new. So, depending on where you get a Safariland, these can be a lot cheaper than these. In my opinion, is this just as good as the Safariland? No, I think the Safariland, it feels a lot better. Having the feature with the red dot hood, protective hood is a bonus, though, with my G17 and the SRO. This would not work, and I don't believe Safariland currently offers any hoods for the SRO, though I know there are third parties out there that can modify this, whether it's modifying or they give you a new one that will work with an SRO or something bigger like Aimpoint Acro or Steiner MPS or Holosun 509T. If I could get the Safariland for every single one of my guns, this is the one that I would buy. I really like the feel of it overall. Obviously, Safariland has a really good reputation, but in this case, wasn't quite willing to spend $275 for it. So the Centurion, it does what I need it to do. It gives me level 2 retention, though I will say that a couple guys in the forums I've seen that they say that this mechanism here gets sticky over time, or they've had it get sticky. I didn't ask for clarification. I don't know what that means. If when they hit the button, the hood doesn't release, or does it get close, stuck being open? I'm not sure. It's something I'll have to go keep an eye on. But I think that is about it. So definitely very solid option available for by Tier 1 Concealed. If you are looking for a level 2 retention holster that can attach with a via Safariland or a G-code hanger. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please like, subscribe. Definitely appreciate all the subscribers I've been getting lately. This is just a fun little side project for me. And if it helps anybody out in the meantime, hey, even better. So thanks again for watching.